Harshil, you can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the host now. So Prem, I think you can start with the session with another 3 more minutes. Maybe we can start. Prem, are you are on mute?
Yes, ka, yes,
Yeah.
ka.
Yes. Prem, I think you can start with the session. So if people are joining, then we will just go ahead with that. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, ka.
Okay.
So, hello guys, and good evening to one and all present here. So today we are in the second series of webinar session under the tag Maatrathin Muyarchigal. So we warmly welcome our speaker, architect Harshil, who is here to speak on the topic My Zeal towards Architectural Services. So Harshil is an CEPT graduate and is currently working as a faculty there. Also, he is a socially engaged architect and is currently working with two NGOs, VIKAS and Manav-sadhna. He is working in the development of underprivileged rural and urban communities through programs like holistic education, health and hygiene, youth and women's empowerment, senior care, and etc. He also collaborated with private firms, government organizations, and other NGOs for the upliftment of the underprivileged communities. So we would like to hand over this session to Harshil Parekh and let him continue this. So before going to it, participants, can you just mute yourself so that there is no distractions in between the session? And if you have any doubts, just post the questions in the chat box. Thank you. Yeah, Harshil, bro, you can.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Prem, for the introduction. And then thank you, the Sid, like everyone in the team. That it's a really good initiative. It gives an opportunity to reflect upon and share with so many with the students. So I'll just share that how it's like how the whole sharing is structured. So like firstly I will be explaining verbally through what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Later on it will also cover that part that how gradually it has evolved from starting from the study as soon as I graduated, and then how year by year like I was receiving gradually an opportunities, and then how it becomes like a formal things, which like formal exploration I can say that it is happening right now. And then later on I will be sharing three three selected projects which has impacted on me also, as well as it has impacted on the ground also. So like I will be sharing the learnings from it, and then gradually the way forward. So before we go ahead, I would like to elaborate more on a present exploration. I'm still saying exploration, it's not a practice. Uh, that where the learning, serving and earning becomes one. So like if I'll like why the earning is more into the inverted comma, because like as soon as we all know that there will be like a big challenge as soon as you graduate, then that earning factor will guide a lot. And then throughout like starting from my study of an architecture, from gradually as I graduated, it like that financial factor has modulate a lot on the path. So and gradually over the period of the time, then now it is kind of I'm enjoying that exploration. Otherwise it has been always a struggle, but a positive struggle, which is always that one struggle give you another clue, and then you will grab that opportunities, and then you will grapple with it, and then you will go ahead. So I'll just explain the present structure, like how my days goes, how my week goes, and then gradually eventually it's months and year. So if I'll explain my week, then like 4 days a week I work in VIKAS NGO, where 2 days it goes into the VIKAS NGO works in the rural. It is based in Ahmedabad, but it works basically in rural villages of coastal villages of Gujarat. So 4 days a week it goes there, and then out of that 2 days I go into the villages, and then 2 days whatever is the next planning, it happens in the office. Rest of the 2 days it goes in at CEPT, where I teach a similar kind of things which is like happening on ground and outside in the practice, whatever is happening. A similar kind of a studio we are trying, and then the studio called Designing with People, where we are trying to bring those tools and methodologies and exploration which is happening outside to the education field. Now like if we'll calculate 4 days and 2 days, like 6 days has gone, and then rest of the time it happens to the rest of two other parts, which is like Manav-sadhna NGOs, which is also based in Ahmedabad. And then with Manav-sadhna, what happens, it's like VIKAS NGO, it's I will say it's a proper job, a formal job. At CEPT University I can say it's a formal job, but at Manav-sadhna it is like a practice of a gift culture, where I have not formally joined the organization, but since 2014 I have always connected with Manav-sadhna. So then as the year goes and goes, as the need arises, I'm always ready to serve in the community. So the mornings and the evening times and the weekends goes for the Manav-sadhna. And then into the communities, the Manav-sadhna basically is the serve in underprivileged communities in Ahmedabad. The NGO works in 5 different communities across Ahmedabad. And then like luckily I has got an opportunity to visit all that work in all those 5 communities. And then beside that, there are another rest of the time goes into small initiatives, which is I can say it's we cannot put it into the category of an architectural initiatives, but small initiatives, kind of food distributions, cloth distributions, and the things which is maybe for someone it is not for someone it is not usable, but if we'll think a creative way of using it, then how to utilize it in another context. So those kind of a small initiatives, which is also it's parallelly it's going on. But if I say that in all across all of this, the one thing is remain is it's a people. Like the people was the main focus. That like I always it integrated me that. Usually what the conventional architecture practice is what the conventional architecture practice does is there will be a client that come to you, they'll explain everything to you, and then you will provide a service. But there is but this is like a 5% of 10% of the communities where the architects are serving. But then it is always questioned me that there are so many people out there who was not approaching the architects, but then architectural field is so vast that it can serve with its knowledge. So that part is constant remain in all the part of these segments. And then sometime like there is an always question comes from my friends that when it question comes that what are you doing, Harshil, that it's so hard to explain them, because sometimes it's so organized where I can explain them that okay, this many days I'm doing this many days I'm doing that. But then sometimes it became so unorganized, so it is hard to explain. But in all of that, the one thing is like I love what I am doing, and that is where when I'm saying what I love what I am doing, I would like to mention these two quotes. That like one of the first quote is I learned it from the Anand Fellowship. There was a 1 year of fellowship study which I took part in it. So the quote says, "Do something that is meaningful to you and valuable for a society." And another quote is, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." So like the meaning, what is meaningful to you? Like this meaning is very subjective. Like we can still objectively see the valuable things which is the society needs, but meaning what you create is very subjective to you. So I would like to also articulate why it became a meaningful, why this kind of a work, or why particularly this kind of an exploration had became a meaningful for me. So I would like to go back to in 2009, like parallel to this the universe which is providing me the opportunity, and then the constant support from a family since my childhood, that they allowed me to do, like they themselves, my parents themselves has done what they love to do, they are still doing what they love to do. And then I have learned the same thing from them, that if I'll not enjoy what I'm doing, then there is no point. So with that constant support, in 2009, the question came after 12th standard. The things came, what to do. Like I literally went into the library and searched what to do after 12, and then based on the interest, this architecture study, it came out. And then very randomly I visit, like I am from Bhavnagar, and then I went to the Ahmedabad, which is another city in Gujarat. Most of you must be knowing Ahmedabad. So in Ahmedabad, I directly visited, because I called from Bhavnagar that, oh, what's the procedure? And they said that you will have to do an entrance exam and come and visit us. So we visited the CEPT University, and then in the help desk, they explained the whole process. And then they said that you will have to attend a coaching classes, which was, and then it came again with the fees. And then that was the stopping point, that, oh, it this much fees for a coaching class, then the whole architectural study will be so expensive. We discussed it, and then we like immediately decided, okay, this is architecture, maybe it's not my cup of tea, only based on the financial crisis. But then very organically, there was a professor who met on the path, and then they shared one contact of a professor who was in Rajkot city. So from the Ahmedabad, I traveled to a Rajkot, and then I met to the professor. He agreed on giving a free coaching, which will allow me to enter into the architecture. So the 1 month training was with him, without a fees, with constant guidance. I entered into the architecture. So like this, I would like to, in these sections, I would like to explain how different kind of a people and different kind of a situation has created those kind of impression in me that I, I will never be able to pay back to them. But there will be always an opportunity to pay it forward. So that's why the whole thing it started, that okay, I will never be able to get a chance, that I will now I can say thank you to that professor, that who has trained me, and then I got, because of him I got into an architectural study. But beyond that, what can I do? Moving on to an institutional environment, as soon as I entered into the CEPT University, there was a constant support. Like till now, there was a constant support of a family. But then now I have never imagined that beyond a family, your friends will become your family. Your professors, your colleagues will become your family. So the institution, what it has provided a tremendous amount of an opportunity during that 5 years of study. And then beside that, again, there was a problem of a financial situation where there will be a struggle how to pay your fees, and then the whole institution, it will recognize this whole effort, and then the struggle, and then they provide financial support to a student to achieve that same level of an education which the other people are educating, and this too without an asking for an help. Moving towards 2012, there was a professor, and then there, like, except if some of you know, there is an exchange program, and then again, it was the merit wise, like that selection for that exchange program happens as a merit wise. I was good, but again, the constant struggle which was since the beginning will not allow me to go on exchange programs. And then there's a professor who very happily ready to sponsor the whole exchange program. And then at that time also I asked him that I am not sure how I will be able to pay you back. The same word it came again, that you don't need to pay me back. Whenever you will become that capable, you can pay it forward. At that time, I was confused that what is this paid forward, or how I will be able to pay it forward, what he is helping me. But then I moved on. In that exchange semester, where I got too much exposure, I became more extrovert. Earlier, I was more introvert. And then those are the opportunities that introduced me on a concept of a volunteerism, where I volunteered in a with different group of people. And then they taught me that what is a volunteer. And then it left me with a question, that what if an architectural service also comes with a volunteer? Because I was not exposed that there is a vast, where there is lots of opportunities to volunteer in architectural field also, but I was not aware. So as soon as that exchange study got over, and then it came to my last final year, and then this constant search, that how all these supports that I have received till now, this is the time where I should do something about it. Instead of just then, and thesis was the year where I can choose our, like, as we all in the last year, we can choose our own topic. For us, it was a research thesis, and this was the year that it was like a turning point for me. So, like, these are the kind of a series of events which has happened, and then it has created this is the, sorry, this was the series kind of an events which organically stitched together and then create a certain kind of a meaning, which I'm now, I can call it what I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. So if I'll explain like how gradually it has grown from when from the study to till now. So in 2014 and 15, I was studying, and parallelly I started volunteering into the slum communities. And that was the first time I got exposure to this context, underprivileged communities. Moving on to the 2015, I finished my studies, and as soon as we graduate, there will be a struggle that you will have to start earning. So in the initial year, it was like I was working in a different context, which was like a private firm. But then there was a constant urge that, and then there was a constant things that, oh, like how I will be able to pay it forward what I have gained through past years. So that parallelly I found an opportunities which I like, which the volunteering which I was doing it in 2014 parallel to my study, I continued with Manav-sadhna. So with Manav-sadhna I'm connected since 2014, and then I can say that I never left. So moving on to 2016 and 17, like 2015, like it was like towards the end of the 2016, it was a realization that the context where I am learning, like because in the private firm, I was learning how to deliver an architect, how from a drawing board, how the things get delivered on site. But the same learnings I was taking back to these communities where I was volunteering into the Anganwadis and preschools. But this constant struggle that in the morning I will be passing, I will be attending those meetings where there will be one toilet, where one toilet fixtures, where it will be like more than like 20,000, 10,000, 20,000 of fixtures we are discussing and we are finalizing. And opposite to at the evening and in the morning and in the evening and in the weekends, I will be struggling to save 100 rupees so that it can be utilized more in an effective way into the Anganwadis and the preschools. So these struggles guide me towards that, no, there is something wrong, that there should be some bridge between the work which I would love to do, and it should also support me as a financially also. So I decided to took a break, or I can say like it was like a very turning point where I got actually fired from that office. And then there was a whole intense discussion that why this private firm and a commercial practice is not good for me. At that time, I couldn't understand. But then now I realized that whatever happened, it happened for a good thing. So I took a break, and then just to understand that what I really want to do, I just focused on volunteering without a job. But then again, within a few months, I got frustrated that, okay, if this will go on, I will run out of money. And then there was a whole responsibility to support the family. Then moving on to a job. Okay, let's find a job which is of more of this kind of interest. So luckily, through the work which I have done as a volunteer, through that, one of the professor recommended me in a government job, and then it was a contractual job. I got enrolled, they accepted, and then I started doing the job. But then it was very intense, so that it has exposed me towards a rural context. Till now, I was exposed through Manav-sadhna in urban underprivileged context, but this government job exposed me to a rural context where I couldn't do a volunteering, but I was just doing a job. But then the whole politics and the bureaucracy in that work environment was again created a frustration. Then that break extended towards a study, that I got an opportunity to take part in a fellowship. I applied it for it, just as I was thinking that, okay, this year I will not do any volunteering job. I will not be doing any government. I will not be working for any organization. I will just be a study, and that study will be as a kind of a reflection. And that actually it did help me. That was the 2017 and 18 year, which was like a reflection year, where I was constantly searching that how this learning, serving, and earning, I can combine it everything together. And then actually towards the end of the fellowship, I figured out, I cleared my mind, and then I found an opportunity to work with VIKAS. So at that point, 2018, it has become this bridge that work, the practice of with a gift culture, volunteering, and teaching. Everything is happening simultaneously. And then now it is now I can say it is more meaningful way. Moving towards like here we were like seeing that how the study, and gradually it moves towards towards the practice. I would now like to share this part, which is a part of a thesis. So this was I will not go into the details that what was the whole thesis and what was the methodologies and what were the teachings, learnings which I had learned, but I'll just want to share here that this was the year that it was where I got exposed to the context. And I never thought that I will be in touch with this similar context throughout the year, the next coming years. So this was the year where it allowed me to stay within the community for a year, and then this was the first time when I started volunteering. So Manav-sadhna NGO was already working there, and then I approached the Manav-sadhna because I was struggling how to approach the communities, how to find the context, how to build trust within the community. And then at that time they introduced that you will not have to go with your own identity, you will have to build an identity. But then there was a question how to build an identity within a new context. So that was the one sentence which triggered, and then they allowed me to start volunteering within. So I'll share like now I'll share the work from the Anganwadis, which was from 2014 to 2017. So if you will see, the Anganwadi number 13 was the first Anganwadi where I got an opportunity to volunteer. There was a whole design team from there is an Australian organization who is collaborating with Manav-sadhna. So there was a design team from them, but then I joined the team as a local architect parallel to my studies. So this was the time where I was volunteering to build this preschool, and parallelly the study was happening. And then gradually there was a trust building happening, and then people started knowing me that, oh, this is the guy who is helping into the preschool. So moving on to then gradually after this Anganwadi, there was one more Anganwadi. There was a whole renovation of Anganwadis, and towards end of the 2014, then there was an opportunity that I could become a part of a design team of an Anganwadi, and then I received an opportunity to design Anganwadi. Like if you see Anganwadi number 14, 15, and 16, where I was a part of a design team, and then gradually a part of a building team also, that where we'll actually, after the designing, we'll actually involve in the building of the preschools also. So these are the Anganwadis situated in the slum communities, which are the examples. These are the examples, Anganwadis are the examples, which is very small interventions, but a very huge impact, because these Anganwadis are acting in the communities, acting as a node where the Anganwadi teachers will become a bridge between the government policies, government initiatives, and then there will be a whole kind of a distribution of resources through an Anganwadis. But in between all these responsibilities, there was no focus on the spatial qualities, where there will be so many kids which will be eventually growing into the same environment. They are living into the such conditions, poor conditions, and they are studying also in such an environment. So there was an NGO who has already envisioned that let's bring a financial support, let's bring a knowledge support, and that where I articulated that okay, it's an architects can really give their time and effort, and with their knowledge that there can be a huge contribution to these communities. So the whole exploration of volunteering, and till that time it was just a volunteering parallel to this parallel job which was in a private firm. So whatever I was learning in a private firm, the skills, how to deliver things on site, how to communicate with the contractors, I was implementing into these communities in form of building one Anganwadi after another. And then it was like every year they'll build one Anganwadi. So till 2014 to 2017, this was the process. Parallel to in 2015, as soon as like I finished volunteering in Anganwadi number 14, like NGO was very much impressed that the way I was involved, the way I was involving with the communities, the way community was responding, and then the way community was creating the bond with me. And then I randomly got a call from an NGO that like we have a need, we have a situation, then we would like you to visit a community and then give your thoughts on it. So this was the like a school which came as an opportunity where like I can say this was the first project after I graduated. And earlier in the Anganwadis, there was a team where I can discuss and share. But this was the time where the NGO has approached that there is no other team. Will you be able to take it ahead? So then I said yes. I like because I was always inclined towards, and then I took this as an opportunity to pay it forward. The first installment, were my what professor has sponsored me. So at that time when I asked the professor that the amount which you are helping with, I will never be able to pay back. And then as he shared that you can pay it forward, I took these interventions as paid forward, that like one after one an Anganwadi, it's kind of an installment of paying it back to the community, not to the professors, not to the people who has helped me, but to the communities who more require. So if we'll see towards the left, that was the condition when I visited the school. Because the NGO has already working there within the community since 2 years, and then it has already won the trust of the community. Children has already started coming there into a rented rooms, but the condition was very cramped. That there was too many kids were there in such a small space. But the enthusiasm which was there in the kids and into the teachers and into the organization who didn't wanted to give up beside this kind of a situation. So then there was a whole thing that there was a whole thought process that what can be a solution, that can we build a school outside the community? But then that thought completely neglected by the people, because these were the families who were constantly involved in a daily waging activities. They were not sending their children to the school because they cannot drop them, because they cannot take them to the schools. There was no facilities where in a usual school there will be a school bus, there will be parents who can drop them to the school. But these were the children who was not getting that much attention from their families. So that was the constant conscious decision that if it will be a school, then it should be within the community. If it will be within the community, then but there was a very dense community. So how to develop? So that was the challenge, but that challenge only opened the way, and then it allowed a two-way process, that it triggered a solution that, okay, we can remove the roof of the school, roof of the houses, and we can extend vertically, like vertically. By doing this, there will be an improvement of living condition below, well, the family who is living at the on the ground floor. And then as the family is giving their space above the roof, they will get the financial rent also, the rent also. So there will be an upliftment of both the things. The community will have a school, a family will have a good house. So this was the concept, and then it got discussed. First it got presented into an organization, then we took it to the community, and the family, as soon as they got to know, because at that time they were not imagining that what will be the space above their roof, but they were always they uh, immediately agreed by seeing that living condition will be improved. And now we can see that like towards the right we can see, like earlier it was a very cramped space where like more than 100 kids will be situated, who will be sitting in class into the shift. But now they have a good amount of a space where, and a flexible space also, which is, this is the school which is on top of the house. These are the some images which will give an idea that how the school is on top of, sitting on top of the houses and sitting within the community. And then there are some photographs which you will be able to see that how now, how it, the space which was, it's very simple, that there was not too much like an architectural exploration, if we can say, but a simple solution can create so much benefit to the community. So this was the learning from it, that without too much hassle and bustle, and then that creating that iconic architectural part, if you'll just provide a simple solution by understanding the needs of a place and a people, uh, and then gradually you will leave it up to the people, then the people will adopt it, and then they will utilize it in their own way. And then earlierly, which this was the school which was just as a, it was imagined as a school, but then it was giving an opportunity to conduct so many other facilities, that it became, eventually it became a community center. Now within the same community, like this was that, this project is an example that how a small interventions after you left, it creates certain kind of an impact onto the community. And then it is a really good to know that when a community itself come to an organization, that you have already, so this was the school which was in 2015. It started, it inaugurated in 2016, and then over a period of year or two, the community, the women of the mothers and the sisters of these children has came to an organization, that you have already made a space for children. Our kids are very enjoying very much there. Periodically there is an events happening there, but is it possible to have a space for us also? Then organization was just thinking that, oh, it's already, it's such a dense situation. We already have a school with the space which is getting utilized for a school, and how to find another space. So the NGO has started initially in 2017, when this need arose from the community. The NGO already started on a public toilet, and then this is the same community, Shankar Bhuvan community, slum communities in Ahmedabad. And then another part of the community, there was a public toilet, and then on top of it there was a empty room which was lying empty since so many years. And then there was an, of course, if there will be in such a dense situation, if there will be empty space, there will be always an eye of someone, but no one could utilize that space because it was a public toilet. And then there was a stigma attached with it, that, oh, a public toilet, and how can something can happen on a public toilet. But NGO didn't pay attention towards it. They just focused on the need. And then NGO shared that there is a space within the community only. And then they asked to the women that, will you be okay to attend and start the activities on public toilet? So that was the first part. In the 2017, if you'll remember, I was into a reflection period. I was into a fellowship study where I decided that I will not be doing any volunteering and I will not be doing any kind of a work also. And I will just be doing an exploration through a fellowship, which was a inbuilt environment. And it was on a finding a solution and tackling to the struggle which I was facing at that time. So, but during the 2017, this NGO again approached in a similar way, the way they approached during the Manav-sadhna school, that we have a need. We have already started these activities within the space, but now there is a really good response from the community. So the activity which started with 12 women, eventually it grown up to 40 women, and then now the space was not allowing that much that much space was not allowing those activities to conduct. And then there was a need of an expansion. So towards the 2018, there was a need to expansion. Then immediately, without thinking of any budget and any crisis, that how a community will also respond to this, there was just a proposal from my side, because I was not visiting the communities. But the part which I was explaining, that you will have to build trust within the community, you will have meet the people, it was already done by the organization. So that was the proposed part. And if you will see at the end, yeah, it whatever we have imagined, it actually came true. So it was a slow process that it started in 2017. Gradually the need arose, and based on that, first renovation happened in 2018. And then at the end of the 2018, again, there was a good response from the community. And eventually there was a proposal. Then there was the whole phase where nothing was happening because of the fund. And then NGO was approaching to a different donors. Eventually towards the 2019, we received the fund. And then again, there was a green signal that yes, we can go ahead. And then yes, there was like the way we had a community school on top of the houses, this was the similar way a women's center on a public toilet. These are some photos of after it got built, which is again like as soon as it got built, like it was a constantly every women and all the women from the community, and then the organization was eagerly waiting that when the construction will get over. And then as soon as it get over, before inauguration, like most of these photos are before inauguration, that we were still it was the project and the school was still in the finishing stage, but they couldn't resist and they started utilizing the space. So this was the renovated space, which is on the first level, on top of the public toilet. And the rest of the things, which is very lightweight, you will be able to see that it was at a terrace for a further extension. And then mainly the purpose of this building, this whole center, was for women. Eventually it targeted towards the teenage girls also, which will talk about an empowerment, which will provide so many opportunities. And within a week, while I again say it was not a complete, like it was in the finishing stage, they started in activities of different activities, which they were already doing it into cramped space. Now they have enough proper space to conduct those activities. The same center got also, they eventually, as soon as the space got built, they got the space. They started activities with the elderly women, which was the women who has no support from their families, and who are alone in the families. So eventually, by seeing this, it already motivated me that, okay, the purpose with which it all started, it has actually, it's solving it. And then with the time, it will eventually, as the people will adopt this space, it will grow a lot. And then parallel to that, when the activity is not happening for the women, the same space got utilized for the kids, because this is the school within the same community where the Manav Seva school is. So over the period of time, the school organization's activities has impacted a lot into the community. There more and more kids started coming. That again, the Manav Seva was also having a space crisis. And then by the time towards end of the 2019, this was the school was ready. So when the women's center is not on, the flexible approach allowed to conduct a school also. And then we can see in the photos that how the kids are enjoying the space. Moving towards what next. So this was the 3 projects which has impacted me a lot. Sorry, I'll just quickly wind up the things. Now I have spoke more than 30 minutes. So this was the 3 project which has impacted a lot. And then if we want to take it ahead, and just from an exploration to a formal architectural service, then what can be the ways? I know that I have mentioned earlier that the future will unfold its own magic, but till that time, the reflection will not stop. You will constantly think, you will keep on thinking of what to do next, how to tie everything what is happening in your practice. So there are many challenges related to the complex issues of poverty, and many organizations are already working towards it. If we see on the ground under these kind of communities, rather if it is in the rural or if it's in the urban context, the organizations who are already helping them, there's often needs a space to function within these communities. So the efforts of these organizations can be more impactful if it happens within the community. And then you can imagine your role within it, so that within the increasing demand and scarcity of resources, with the time, it is wise to think how to tackle more challenges by building less. So reflecting upon the same, that the way the school got built, the way the Anganwadis got built, the way community center got built, it was not that big structures which took that much build mass into that community because of the crisis, but that itself gave an ideas that how by building less you can still create a more impact. So delivery of this architectural service can become more smooth, fast, and impactful through collaborating with an existing organization, which was kind of already happening. So the thought can be exploration, that if there will be a formal engagement with this organization, and there will be an approach that, look, as an architects, these are the knowledge, this is the way, this is the method, these are the tools, and this is the experience, past experience, which can gather together, and then we can deliver together, we can deliver and uplift the whole community. And instead of that whole dynamic of giving, and that whole power dynamic, which is usually happening into this kind of a context, that you will be providing something, you will be providing housing, and so much politics involved, rather it can be focused on empowering the whole communities, where the space will empower them, they'll educate them, and then together we can think about to improve about that living conditions, where everyone's effort will be accountable. And then this is the things which we can take it forward, that an architect can connect with multiple organizations, like similarly, which it's happening at the present at this moment, which will that will also allow to expand the network, which is connecting with more people with the same kind of an interest, with same kind of people, and then constant you will critically you will be discussing and this kind of an environment also, like the same thing which we are doing it now. And it will also motivate others by sharing and constantly discussing these things, that what is the best way. There is not a single one way which you can do it. And then eventually, as the more people will learning this, the more people will started knowing about this kind of an approach, there will be more communities which will get impacted. And that is the way of paying it forward. So that uh, a small things which you will be doing it now, usually you will never be able to in a conventional practice, if you have designed a house, you will not be able to visit the same house by seeing that, oh, how the family is utilizing. You will get a feedback, but in certain kind of intervention, in such a kind of a practice, you will be able to see that how whatever you have initiated and whatever you have contributed to that one part in a small way, eventually how it is growing with the time, and then how the more demands are generating, and then because of those demands you can articulate the solution in a more better way. So this was just a way that how you can take it ahead, and then how you can solve your financial part also. That is the constant challenge, which is still a struggle, but now I can say that I have found a way to balance it everything. So that's it from my side, and I'll just constantly say that it's a constant process of reflection, practice, and reflection. Thank you.
Thank you so
Sorry, I took so much
session.
time.
No, that's fine. It was really nice. It was worthy and eye opener. You know, like you literally told us what is the role of an architecture and architect in shaping the future of the country. And so it's time for questionnaire session. So I have received some questions from the students and participants over here. So
Yes.
the first question will be, how does one learn needs of people while designing for them?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How does one learn about the needs of the people while designing for them?
Yes. So during the like, if you'll take this kind of exploration into in a study environment, you will always get a time to interact more with people. And then there is an always this kind of a dilemma that you will never get enough time to interact with people when it comes to a practice. But then like knowing that needs of the people, and what they really needs and what is really required on ground, it can be actually understood through an organizations, through a people who is already acting into this field. And then as soon as you will join them, you will, and then you will validate through on ground that if I'll take an example of a school, that as soon as the organization approached, how we can get to know that there is a need of a school, need of like the people needs the school within that community, and not it is not an hidden agenda of an NGO or an organization. So like the trust which it has built, and then the communication which you will have it on the ground at that time, that response from the people will give you an answers that the need which it has arrived, which will come as to an architect, it will comes to you as a proposal only, that we need a school. But then there is one old role that you will have to understand: is there a need of a school? Is there a need of a small room? Is there a need of a small reading room? or there is no need of anything to do or anything such to anything to build. And then those conversation with people will give you an idea that what is an actually need. And then you will have to be very conscious and one step at a time, instead of influenced by directly by an organization. If an organization say that they need a school, and then, oh yes, let's build a school, that should not be a way. You should be a step back and then get a time from an organization also, that you will do your own interaction within the community, and eventually you will find out a way that these are the needs from the community.
Yeah, very well said, bro. So next one will be when architecture meets service, a journey in working with non-profits. How would you justify this phrase being mutual?
Being
mutual. Being mutual.
Being.
Wait, I will repeat the question once again. When architecture meets service, a journey in walking with non-profits, how would you justify this phrase being mutual? Mutual, M-U-T-U-A-L.
Mutual. Yes.
Mutual.
Like why?
Mutual.
Like how it is not a biased way of a thing.
Yes.
So the same way, like I explained earlier also, that it will be always comes with these biases, and there will be always these questions, and then there will be a doubts that any organization which you are connected, do they have any hidden agendas, or do they have, why are they approaching to an architect or to in a certain way. But then in my case, it was a reverse. Like an organization, before an organization will approach you, you will be exposed to an activities of an organization. So you will be visiting the community first. You will be seeing those activities which is happening already into those communities, the impact which is an organization is already creating, the efforts which is any organization is doing in their respective context. And then you will have your own understanding of the needs and aspirations of the people, parallel what an organization is providing to you. And then there will be a negotiation that, okay, I as an outsider who has not been into these communities and spent very less time, see this kind of things in a short amount of time. But an organization who is spending so much time there, you are seeing the things in a certain way, I am seeing it in a certain way, and that negotiation and that communication will bring out a mutual solution, and it will not be a biased from anyone, and it will be like it is, we can say it that this kind of a service will not for the company or the organization, it will be with the organization but for the community. And later we can say it is a with the community, because eventually the end users are getting impacted. And then in such kind of a project, you will be able to see in front of your eyes that how it is getting impacted and how it is not getting misused. Whatever you have created, whatever intervention you have done it is not getting misused. And slowly from one experience, you will gradually learn that what kind of a communication I had, what kind of a negotiation I had, which I will be able to learn from it, carrying it forward with the next organization and to the next communities, because each time the community will change, the context will change, the challenges will change, and it will eventually give you will do the same process again and again, and it will bring out to the mutual solution.
So I have a question from my side. So you showed the Anganwadi's design, the design for the children. So how did you tackle the cost factor, especially the cost factor. When I saw the images, I could see the materials used were locally available materials. But how did you manage the cost for the labors, especially when NGO is fund is limited? How did you tackle it as an architect?
Yes. So especially in this Anganwadi project, it was a collaboration with an Australian organization. So the fund was actually coming from an Australian organization, and then that too was like a crowdfunding. So the volunteers who will come from that organization they do the crowdfunding in Australia, and then they'll bring those funds to India. And then Manav-sadhna organization will provide them, they'll host them, they'll provide them a home stay, and then they will provide a support and the trust which they have already built it into the community. So the fund will, like the cost factor will be always be a limited. So whatever fund they have collected, that will be the budget for that will be the budget for the preschool. And then that will guide to a certain kind of a decisions that this kind of a materials we should utilize. And then eventually as the process will goes on, people will contribute it. Like there will be in the similar context, we'll go to the people and we'll explain the whole concept, that how the service concept, the voluntary concept, and how it will get benefit to the people and the kids into the community. They'll understand the cause, and then they'll donate their waste material. So you will see lots of waste material which is get utilized in a certain way, and that is the things which is someone waste will become your resources, and that way it will the cost factors was getting utilized into these Anganwadi projects.
So how can we reimagine and redevelop aging structures, develop it as an healthy functional community space?
Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, bro, can you hear me again? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How can aging and aging structures can be redeveloped and reimagined for a better functioning of a community space? Like how can we create a community space from an aging? How can we reimagine it?
Yes. So the first thing which like when it comes to utilizing the aging buildings and empty spaces, first thing the location of it comes as a priority. That whatever functions, before you start thinking about the functions, is that location it will provide or will allow to continue that need into that within that space. Because if we'll take an example of a public toilet, where we'll say we can never imagine a school on a public in a conventional way. You can never imagine a school on a public toilet or a women's center on a public toilet in a different kind of a context. But as the location was such and the need was such, you will first identify the building and its location and it's how it is location wise how it is serving. Then you will study the feasibility part, that is it durable, whatever investment which you will be doing it to utilizing the building, is it the worth, or will it survive for its purpose. So if like many aging buildings will have a very dilapidated conditions. Luckily this public toilet was a government built by government, and it has those norms and rules, and it got built it. But that many structures will not have those. So those kind of a feasible study should taken place first, and then combining with a need, function, and then by minimum intervention and by minimum additions, which will reduce the cost of the project also. And then you will, in the initial part, you will see that is it people are adopting that place, because earlier it has a different kind of a use, and then now you are changing the function. So first, in the initial stage, it is good to see how people are adopting it, and then eventually you will do a more addition. So a whole design can be tackled in a phase, and that can give an effective solution.
Yeah. So the next question will be, there are many NGOs who are doing mindful jobs for the environment. So as a student, how can I choose to volunteer a particular NGO?
Yeah. So like there are so many organizations who are like most of the NGOs, if you'll see, many very less NGOs will be particularly focusing on an architectural part. They will be always tackling these three main aspects: education, health, and empowerment. Many NGOs will be, if that NGO is more established, then they have expanded over the period of time, and they will have a different kind of tools and methods and projects to take it ahead. And then there will be if there is a new NGO or a particularly NGO which is focusing only on one aspect, and they will have only one agenda, and then they will. So there are wide spectrum out there. But then particularly this NGO will never approach an architect.
Okay.
Because it will architectural practice is always imagined as that it always comes with a fees, that they will quote a fees, and then NGO always struggles on fundings. So let's say if I'll take an example of an health project that they are struggling to buy equipments for the people, and into those whole health equipments, how they can invest into a building a clinic. But then that will be the role of an architect, that irrespective of a profile of an NGO or an organization, you can just see what kind of an activity they are doing it, then slowly started exploring the context in which they are serving, and then you will see a need of on a ground, and then you can approach to an NGO that, look, I have this kind of a skills, I have this much time, I can do this much effort, I can utilize everything and provide you this kind of a service. In return, in initial stage, of course, if I would like to a voluntary, then they will accept it, because they'll not have to be worried about anything to pay you back, to pay you as a fees, and they'll be ready to collaborate. So that will be an approach. As an volunteer, you can approach, and then most of the NGOs will always struggle in their day-to-day things. So in the first stage, there will be always a delay in a communication. They will always say no. No one will reply. But in-person visit and explaining that what you can contribute to the community as an architectural, and what kind of an architectural knowledge you can bring, that will allow them to. So they will also start imagining, and then they will open the opportunities to you. And in that way, you can take it ahead, and you can formulate your own project as a volunteering project.
Okay. So the next question is, should architecture favor social distance or foster social interaction? As an architect with social responsibility and humanity, what is your take on this dilemma at the wake of this pandemic?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, should architecture favor social distance or foster social interaction? As an architect with social responsibility and humanity, what is your take on this dilemma and the wake of this pandemic?
Yes. So, like, if I have understood the questions correctly, like in such situations, it's it's more of an again it comes with an alone architecture or an architectural. There is no solution alone, because if you'll see, you will be just providing a space in this kind of a situation is not solving any kind of a problem. But counter to that, if there will be a solution from your side that which will allow a different kind of, if I'll just take an example of like there was one of my friends who just initiated, they have initiated it's a Chat Foundation, and they just initiated this process of designing cells, modular cells, which can be utilized by migrant work, like the not migrant workers, but people who are working on a front line. So there is a whole things, an architectural solution which you can do, but another way you can also suggest certain things, and certain kind of without building anything, without architecturally, it should not be an architectural solution, or it should not be a building solution. It can be imagined a same space in a different way also. So let's say recently in the similar school, like the school has an empty space, like plenty amount of space. The Shankar Bhuvan community itself has so many people who has exposed to his the virus, and then in such a kind of a dense situation, how will you when you are not allowed to visit those communities from far, how you can approach them? So these are the spaces which was designed for a certain intention. It can be opened at a different time. This kind of a crisis, it can be open for a different things. So if the community has a dense situation and very much cramped situation, but this kind of a spaces which is designed with a thought, a proper thought process, it can be opened to for the communities. And then you can guide an NGO also, that how a same space can be utilized in a different way during this much time. So you don't need to change anything as a planning wise, but you just need to change the activities, and you will be able, you will imagine that, you will share that imagination with an organization who is actively working on the ground, will facilitate the things, and then it can create a, it can bridge the gap.
So next question is, how do NGOs or any volunteering work happening in a community can bring an ownership into the space? How does community people maintain it?
So this maintenance part and owning part comes in the process, that in the process of actualization of this whole thing, how much you have engaged with them. So usually if you will have imagined that like social engagement comes always with a participatory process, and then participation is always combined with if you will involve people in building, that is a participation. But usually it is not that. If you will involve people into a decision making also, if you will not involve directly them to building process, if you will involve them into a into a incubation stage where the thought is still on its in the beginning stage, if you will involve people, they'll start imagining the same things which you are also imagining. And eventually through a constant communication, gradually you will have a constant touch with them. And then usually many times it to accelerate the process, will avoid a communication. But in certain kind of if you want that they will own the space, they will own the intervention, you will have to allow them to grasp what you are trying to achieve. And as soon as you will do that, they themselves will give so many different ideas, and then they will allow to enter into their premises. Because no matter how much you will try, you are still an outsider. An organization who has still served for so many years, they are still an outsider. So if we'll allow them to imagine, then they'll start sharing those things, and then they will feel that they've heard. Like otherwise there is no voice of them. And then when they'll see the things is actually happening, and then they'll say, oh, ye part to maine bola tha, I have told these things, and they have utilized these things. And eventually they'll take pride in it, they will utilize this space. And I can take an example of this only, like how the Shakti Center idea came into the mind. There was no initiation from the NGO. It was an initiated from the people itself, like the mothers and the sisters from the children, that there should be something for us also. And they owned it, that idea, that an organization and external support can bring so much different opportunities to the communities, and it has benefited to the children, so it can benefit to the us also. So that trust allowed them to approach to the NGO, that negotiation, those communication allowed them to find a place within the community, then sharing it that we have a space, please NGO or an organization, you come and serve in that space. And then eventually it started, as I shared earlier, that you will do an incremental growth. So you will allow them to absorb that space. You will see how they are reacting, how they are adopting, learning from it, developing the next phase, sharing it with them. And then again, yeah, so eventually they will own it. And then you will not have to, then an organization will not have to initiate anything. It will accelerate, the process will accelerate from the within. And that should be the right process, I think. And if that is happening, then it's like, yeah, our organization has also achieved something, and our architects somewhat have achieved what the purpose of an intervention.
So we have a question from one of our participants, Krishna Priya. So could you just on your chat box, because it is a question with
Yes,
appreciation also. So I think it will
yes,
reach you very well. Yeah.
yeah. So I'll just read out of us. So,
Yes, sure.
is it okay? Like, yeah, to read out?
Yeah, sure. Read up.
Yeah, yeah. I bow my head to the role that you chose to take up, life and beyond. This path is never easy and is never a streamlined path to any stereotyped architect of a student be in question can only derive on the taken this to be one's lifestyle. Please do share about your findings of your purpose and the passion that subtly grew into you. As your path reflects your frustrations towards the system and then the bureaucracy, what are the happenings in the society or anything at all that provoke you and has also been a point for you to realize what you are doing now is your cup of tea? Wow. Thank you, Krishna, for the appreciation. It's like throughout, as you mentioned, that it's kind of a constant struggle that like you will always have a support from a family, but then if you will not have a support from an extended family, or to it will be sometime it will become hard to explain to a certain people that whatever you are trying to do, it's not bringing the money, but it is bringing that joy and the values which you are striving for. So like, and sometimes it's so hard to explain to others. So and that is that struggle will allow you to find those ways that like for me it was the reflection period which I took, like I took a break from volunteering and from a job, that allowed me to reflect that okay, no matter what others will have to say, I'll have to learn to communicate. I'll have to learn to articulate what I'm trying to do. And then more communication, more articulation and explanation. Earlier I was shy, and I was getting frustrated that why they are not understanding what I'm trying to do, why they are always questioning. But then later on, those are the people who took interest in listening to your frustration. So those were the happening moments that the people who has shown distrust in you, that they always doubted you, they will be questioning. And those communications, those interactions uh, is ended with a note that no, there is an always a hope. There will be an always a chance, and there will be, if you will search for it, then you will there are plenty opportunities. And then you will just have to reflect on your own self that okay, whatever you're doing is you are enjoying it or not. For me it was those were the things which, like, whatever I was doing, I was enjoying. There was a like constant criticism which I was getting from my friends and my extended families, that I'm not giving them time, and I'm not spending enough time on sharing what I'm doing, and I'm remaining in my own bubble. But that self has, that time was not about, like, it was not that I wanted to hide something. It was a time of my own own reflection, and then an articulation. Then as soon as the time came, I shared it with them, and then that was the moment that, oh, then they understood that, okay. And then you will share it with them in a way that if they want to understand a financial part, like there are a few people who are always struggling that, oh, if you आप सेवा ही करते रहोगे तो earn कैसे करोगे, family को support कैसे करोगे. But then as soon as I shared with them that how practicing gift culture, practicing, like I'm not earning money, but I am earning so many other things, which is giving me a different kind of a work opportunities. So one work, which is a volunteering, is giving me another work opportunity, and that is bringing me a money. So like when it started balancing it, everything started balancing out. And then as soon as I started communicating with them, things was started sorting out. And then I started realizing that no, now this is the path which I can stick on, and it is my cup of tea. And it has always this personal attachment on this meaning, which is things which is meaningful for me, was always there. That the people who has contributed in my study in my earlier years, I has, like they have never asked for it, like, okay, now you pay me back. They have always taught me that take it ahead. And that is why whatever I'm doing. So yeah, I'm like the enjoy is most like I'm enjoying. That is the main thing. That is why I'm not feeling that it's too much, and I'm not getting frustrated. Like if I want a break from a village work, I'm getting break by working at CEPT. If I and interacting with the students, if I am it's too much discussions and it's too much critically thinking, then I'm taking break in volunteering in Manav-sadhna, where I'm meeting kids. So it's like a constant break. So it feels like I'm always on a vacation. And but to others it feels like I'm always into this work, and I'm not giving time to them. So, but yes, it will be hard to explain, but eventually the work will explain them. So you will leave it up to the time.
So we'll end up with one last question from my side.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What is your take on convertible spaces, especially when you showed images of that school, particularly their school, where we could see students involving in many activities like dancing, then yoga, then students being fed up, and all these things. How could an architect master in designing a convertible space, especially for a community? And how could he bring in a sense of safety and privacy in it? So yeah.
So like I have like I'll take the learnings from that school only. Like initially that the school was planned like as all architects do, like as they'll propose the things, they'll have this fancy visuals and renderings to show it to the organization as well as to the communities of the people. And then they will make them imagine, like whatever I was imagining, I was trying to make them imagine that this is the way you can add the partitions, this is the way you can add the curtains, this is the way it will have this flexible use. But as soon as the things started building on site, and then the constant decision was, okay, we'll do it phase wise. That before, like as a design stage, it was a different thing. When you have imagined certain things, and there is a possibility and there is a provision that you can add this partition if there will be a need, you can add this cupboard if there will be a need, you will derive certain kind of an elements, and you will build certain kind of an elements in such a way which will be able to add on certain things as incremental. So as soon as, like the same school have a provision of creating a computer lab also. So as soon as the NGO will get a fund, and as soon as they'll get computers, they'll install the computers there. So the storage walls and elements which got designed, it has kept in that mind. But If we see at the present, there is nothing there. It's just an open space, but it has that flexibilities and that imagination behind it, that there is a provision. So, and then that provision and that imagination should not remain within yourself, but it should be communicated to end users as well, so that as and when the need will arise, they'll share कि हाँ ये part हम इस तरीके से utilize कर सकते हैं. And then you have imagined in a certain way, but then you will just communicate. Then they themselves will add that element on their own, and then it will get utilized. So then if I'll quickly take an example of that school, there was a partition because within the one space there are 4 classrooms going on. Earlierly it was a challenge that, oh, how within the same open space without a partition the 4 class they'll conduct, it will disturb each other class. But then surprisingly there was a feedback from the students that it was a really good decision that we haven't installed the partition, because now it is guiding the kids to remain disciplined. So earlier it was a different rented rooms where children was, of course, children will be crazy and then they will shout and everything. But automatically as they were sharing the space, it allowed that they remain disciplined. They were understanding that if we'll raise the voice, they will also, other class will also raise the voice. And then the discipline, which was like one of the values which organization wanted to plant, it got planted eventually. And then the teacher said that no, we don't want to install. So there is still provision, but they have never installed those partitions there. They have never installed those curtains there, because whenever the sun comes inside, the school is not functioning. So whenever the rains comes inside, like the floor is in such a way that the rain water is getting drained, and then they are not having a problem. So certain things which you will be imagined that, okay, if there will be too much sun, you can provide this. If you have too much rain, you can provide this. But eventually you will leave it up to them, creating a provisions, sharing with them, and leaving the execution part, you will leave it up to them. As the part of an execution, you will still be involved. So it is not like you will leave that side. As soon as the project will got over, it's done, my job is done, and you will move on. You will always go back that how people has utilized it. And in that way, you will learn from one project that what kind of flexibility you can keep for the next project. And that has allowed into the Sakti Center also, that it has allowed to develop an envelope in a certain way, which will create a n number of possibilities. And then you will share all those combination of orientations and the way you can conduct the classes with the teachers. If they want to take it ahead, they will take it ahead as per the need. Otherwise, as a practice, you will just provide provision.
Very well answered, Harshil. It was really an amazing session, actually, for showing us the essence of true love, humanity, and social responsibility. Initially, when we contacted you regarding the topic, we didn't realize the depth in this topic. But after this session, we have realized more. In fact, it was justifying in all aspects that we all need to be humans first and then architects next. So hopefully we're looking forward for more such sessions in future, and thank you very much for sharing
and
your
forgetting that power thing, that you are a giver. If you forget that hierarchy, that you are the provider, you are as an architect can provide something. You will have to as soon as I forget that hierarchy and bring out that, okay, we all will be coming together to learn something, and then eventually something will happen. And that has bring a lot of joy in the work, and eventually it is getting reflected into the work also. And then these are the time, actually, as you shared that initially it was not clear, I myself was not clear. As I shared that it was always that you feel unorganized. I was also feeling unorganized, but then this platform gave an opportunity to reflect and articulate the thoughts in a certain way. So I'll really thank you, all of you, that all the students who are eager to learn these things through the sessions, and the whole team also. So really, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And especially, I like that one thing you said. Volunteering gives us more opportunities. It was very meaningful, and it has a lot of depth in it. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Sure, sure. Yes. We'll be in touch. Yes, sure.